I'm excited that we get to talk about commercial awareness and unpacking what commercial awareness is, and also really hear from Tina regarding her story. So the first thing in terms of an introduction is I wanted to introduce myself and Tina, go through a bit of the agenda, and then we'll take this PowerPoint out and we'll just have an informal conversation. If there are questions you have at any point, of course, I have my set of questions for Tina, but definitely want to hear from you. So please engage as much as you can. And that, I have to say, the picture is a pre-COVID haircut, and I'm still waiting for a decent headshot, so you must excuse me. But I run a company called Frank. We're an education organization. We work a lot with universities and early career professionals on really teaching them and preparing them for careers of the future and making sure they have the skills they need to make sure that they can bring these careers and jobs about. In terms of our guest today, Tina, I'm so happy to be chatting to you, and I'm so glad that we've been able to kind of get to know each other over the last few months. So as a quick introduction, Tina has 25 years of experience in the financial services industry, 17 of which were in JP Morgan Chase. She now is a non-executive director and chair and on board of a few advisory boards, and really wants to sort of compound and share the lessons from her travels and business experiences across Australia, the US, and Singapore to the organizations she works with. She also is a founder of a venture, Unbeatable You, really focusing as a next generation mentor, but also having a dual purpose of, performing and doing ventures that really add value to the planet. So we're going to dig a little bit into that, Tina. In terms of agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about your story. We're going to really pull out what commercial awareness is, what are some of the right skills for graduates. And I just want to sort of give a bit of heads up that this session really is a focus on graduates and students, so not so much on the senior space. I know you are all masters at Zoom, so I don't need to tell you this. But definitely, if you want to share, chat is probably the best. And if you want to join us on video, please do. And as I said, we'll be sharing and recording this as we go. So Tina, that's kind of my spiel. Let me just start off in terms of, introducing yourself from your time at KPMG to JP Morgan Chase to what you're doing now in terms of the roles you have on boards and Unbeatable You. Tell us a little bit about that journey and how you kind of got here.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. A little bit of a step back. So I did a Bachelor of Commerce with a double degree or double major in accounting and information systems. So from an early age, sort of loved the marriage between business and technology. As a result of that, I ended up becoming a graduate within the graduate program of KPMG. Did that for a number of years, then decided that it would be fun to go to New York. Was meant to be for 6 months, and sort of the rest is history. So went over to New York as a consultant, and then my first day there was with JP Morgan Chase. So from there, it's been a pretty incredible journey, at least in my perspective. And one of the main things that was, I think, interesting about my career was my ability to change careers within an organization. So going from project management to finance to chief data officer and then into chief technology officer space. So, really having a diverse range of experiences through that time, which we'll get into a little bit more on how that came about. Now, fast forward 25 years later, hard to say. I feel like an 80-year-old nana when I say when I was younger. But if I take a look at where I'm at in my career, I think there was two parts. One was the corporate career, which was extremely satisfying. Learned a lot. I think I achieved a lot, and really invaluable knowledge that I gained from there. Now my focus is much more of a diverse portfolio. So Unbeatable You is my passion. That's what gets me up every day, helping others be successful in the career space, not just in corporate, not just through university paths, but across all of the ranges of career paths. And then also, if you think about the other two major organisations that I'm involved in, Empowered Women in Trade. So very conscious around there's only 3% of females in trades in Australia, and there are many, many reasons and barriers to entry that we're working on that side. So I'm the chair of the board for that organisation, and then also Earth Tech, which is a tech company that is, its mission is very clear, which is to help 1 billion people by 2030, focus on the 17 UN sustainability goals, and building this technology platform that's going to connect startups with investors to accelerate the funding to actually get those ideas into reality to the extent that they're solving one of the 17 UN sustainability goals. So people, planet, really focused on things that I am passionate about, and leveraging everything that I've done, so far in my career.
Yeah, very exciting, Tina, and being a mom, right? And having a family.
And being a mum. So yeah, I've got a 12-year-old and 9-year-old that keep me on my toes. And certainly, they have opinions on everything that I'm doing in both the gender space as well as the sustainability space. So yeah, it's great to be able to converse with them on topics that matter. Not that banking and derivatives and investment bank isn't important to the ecosystem of the world, but certainly these topics they resonate with very much.
The younger generation, for sure. And so, Tina, that's why I thought you would be a very good person to chat to regarding this topic of commercial awareness. The reason we're focusing on commercial awareness is, one, a lot of these skill gap webinars that we're having, the reason we call it a skill gap is there was a 2019 report on employability in Australia, and they found that there were a gap in expectations between what employers needed in terms of skills from graduates and what skills graduates they thought they need to develop themselves. Commercial awareness was one of those skills that came up that employers value, but that graduates didn't realize were important or didn't realize it was a skill set. And even when we were promoting this webinar out, a lot of graduates still don't understand what commercial awareness is. So from your experience working, 25 years in the corporate space, what does commercial awareness in very simple terms mean to you?
So in full disclosure, and hopefully you'll all get to know me better through this process, I had to Google it, right? It is not a term that I would naturally use, even though once I understood what commercial awareness was based on Google, clearly I applied it, throughout my whole career. So what is commercial awareness is nothing more than understanding the company, what its purpose is, how it makes profit, who are their stakeholders, and really a broader understanding about the industry and the ecosystem that it operates within. So if anyone was sort of like, what is commercial awareness? It is really just an ability to learn and gain knowledge around something, be it a company, an individual, an industry, a culture, a geographic location, whatever that topic is. It's commercial awareness, so as it relates to how that business is operating within those environments. So, hopefully, just to sort of demystify what that means, really for me is the more commercial aware people are, or students more specifically, the better insights they will provide to the organisation. And what do I mean by insights? I mean things like thinking about new products, thinking about new areas of development that this organisation could do, asking the right question or a group of questions around what is the risk profile of this company and what are we trying to mitigate as it relates to risk. So, we'll get into how we do it in a second, but really, commercial awareness is just being a sponge of knowledge about a particular topic, specifically, in this conversation around a company that you may be interviewing for or around a company that you, may be wanting to learn more about. So yeah, that's my sort of spiel on commercial awareness. Natasha, anything to add as far as how you think about it?
So understanding the business, understanding the organization was sort of my takeaway. And definitely what you were saying in terms of all the aspects of that business, how it relates to the role. The question I guess graduates probably don't realize is, from an employer point of view, why is that important? So let's say in an interview situation, why would you share information like that? Why would it stand someone out?
Yeah. So I think there's 3 examples that I would give. So the first one is, the more you understand, so in an interview, the more you understand going into that interview about what that company does, the better answers you'll be able to do as it relates to when they ask you, because they always do, what interests you about the role? What interests you about this company? Why, what value do you think you can add? So if you don't have a commercial understanding about what that organization does as it relates to its mission, vision, strategic priorities, I've been in interviews when people just sit there and go, oh, because basically I was told to, this was a good company to go for. There is so much more information that's available that would you could leverage as part of the interview. I think the other component is also how the organisation does business. So, if you think about on a website, if you go to the About Us section, you learn so much about an organisation, be it its opinions on culture, corporate governance, giving back to the community, and then even things like their position or lack of on diversity and inclusion. So really going to leverage the knowledge that you gain from a simple Google search of that company will help you in the interview to call out those things. So if they say, what interests you beyond your technical capability, then you can start talking about things within the community or within areas of interest that that would also resonate with them. I'm not sure, Natasha, if you're frozen or if we're good. Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that we were still live. And then the third component is the language. So as you think about when you go for an interview, if I use KPMG as an example, you go to the careers section of KPMG, and I can talk then with articulation around what is the areas of interest to me. So is it audit and advisory? Is it tax and legal? Is it risk consulting? The more you can speak in the vernacular of that organisation, again, the differentiator that it'll have as part of the interview. So they're just 3 examples. So commercial awareness, understanding what the business does, how the business does their business, and then also the language that they use to describe their activities, I think are the 3 things that I've seen, really differentiate when I have done thousands of interviews, to be honest, so across all the levels of the organisation. So not just as a graduate program, all the way up the chain to senior executive roles.
And so that's, let's say, someone who's trying to get into an organization, right, through an interview stage. Let's say someone that's in the first 1 to 3 years in an organization, so very early in an organization. How do you sort of get a grasp on sort of the unwritten rules in that organization in terms of some of the values and culture?
Yeah.
What have you seen has worked? So
for me, what I've always tried to do and been fortunate, I surround myself with people that I want to be like. Right. So, the old saying goes, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. I really take that seriously in the extent that, not only do I want to be successful from a sort of on paper, doing things well, but how I do them and the characteristics and the behaviors that I demonstrate as part of that. The best way to learn is to be around people, both who you want to emulate. And I have some amazing role models, but also, those within organizations that you don't necessarily have an aligned, agreement on values or approaches to management of teams. So having your own nearly like scorecard on, what I observe, what I want to be like, what's important to me, and then emulating that back to my team members has been sort of, the way I've done it. And the only way to do that is to put yourself out there, right? As an individual contributor, I know earlier on in your career, you can be sort of more independent, but you have to sort of lean in and, expose yourself, be it through networking events, through team meetings, whatever it is, so you can actually start getting your own formulation of an opinion about your identity, and then, applying that to the more broader team management skills that you need as you develop your career.
And what are some things so we're talking about all the things that people can really do in terms of getting it right. What are some things perhaps the graduates or you're seeing that they probably should stop doing or not do as much? Is there anything in that space?
I think it's less of stop doing, but what they probably should be doing more is leveraging this incredible asset called the internet that has been an absolute game changer, even in the 25 years that I've been in corporate. And don't underestimate the power of, just giving yourself a couple of hours and just traversing through the information chain. So what do I mean by that? So as an example, getting into the gender equality as well as the sustainability and climate change space, 6 months ago, I had a basic knowledge, like we all do probably around what we read, but there was no way I could speak with a level of intelligence around the more systemic challenges in both of those topics. So what do I, what do I do? I jump on the internet and I start with the basics, right? How do you become carbon neutral? And it is
Mm-hmm.
incredible how long I can spend. My husband and kids laugh at me because I can be 4 hours, and it's purely just, drilling down. Okay, so what does this mean? What does a fossil fuel mean? What is Greta's
Mm-hmm.
opinion on this? How does this into come in, from a New Zealand aspect? Then I'm onto YouTube and watching these, amazing videos that within 5 minutes I've learnt more than, every car has 2.4 tons of emissions every year. I didn't know that a week ago, right? And so I just, don't underestimate. Yes, learning on the job is really important, but your
Mm-hmm.
commercial awareness and your ability to have stronger opinions quicker and more efficiently through your own investment of time and education, I think is key. And I'm saying that because as a 47-year-old, I'm doing it today. And, I wish I had the tools available when I was, 16, 17, 18, 19, whatever age, because it is power. Information's power, as we all know. And it really does. It's not only because you should do it to help be a better employee, it's also because
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool, right? And it's just really interesting to have more knowledge, to have better, understandings and insights. So yeah, sorry, long-winded answer, but that's just a little bit of a journey on not necessarily what to stop doing, but I would just say the bar has been lifted as it relates to the expectation of all levels of employees having knowledge on things and having opinion on things.
Yeah.
And so, definitely get in there and get ready based on, the research and the time that you need to do it well.
So yeah, we have access to the information and just sort of intelligently researching and finding out things and formulating, I guess, a well-rounded opinion.
Exactly.
And that being a sort of a basic expectation of employers these days, right?
Absolutely.
I was going to
100%.
ask. I was going to ask this as the last question, but since you kind of spoke about it, I know speaking to you in your LinkedIn bio, things like contributing to the betterment of a better world, focus on sustainability are important things as a personal ethos that are coming out in your own sort of how you conduct yourself. How did that come about? Why is that important? Why are you focusing on that now?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, after a longish career in corporate, for personal reasons, COVID hit, a few things happened within my family. I really took a step back and said, where are my priorities and do I have the right balance of where I'm putting my energy? And, when I did that, I certainly realized that what I wanted my next half of the career to be was around giving back, because I had so many people invest in me.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way I could have achieved what I've done without some, incredible people that have invested in me. And the more I have time to do that, the more people I can touch. So one was really about that. Originally, I wanted to get more into mental health and suicide prevention, but we'll maybe talk about self-awareness. I'm not qualified, right? I don't unless I was going to go back to school. That was not my strength. So I wanted to lean in on something that I did have strength in, which is more around career motivation, mentoring, coaching, and developing people. So that was, I haven't nailed the incredible desire that I have to help young adults in the mental health space, but I can play on the positive, and I can, hopefully through partnerships with yourself and your incredible organization, as well as Unbeatable You, Empowered Women in Trade, I can leverage that investment of time. On the earth side, to be honest, we all talk about it, but again, like when you actually have the time to read the facts, and that it is, we are in an environmental crisis, and in the next 4 decades, we'll either make or break this, and the temperature rising, like it is, in my mind, there is nothing more important, because everything else is mute if we don't have a, healthy ecosystem to survive in. So, that is just, the more I learn about it, the more action orientated I want to get around, okay, so what, right? So we need to have startups that are solving technological capabilities to reverse the damage that we've created over decades. We need technologies that are enabling us to totally eradicate it through time, right? So, there's so many things I could go into, given I've been doing so much research. But needless to say that they, once I had the opportunity to take a step back and say, okay, what is this next chapter? Then then I'm really determined on focusing on these two things. Now, that being said, it's not that I didn't do that for 25 years in my career, right? It's not one or the other, and I think that's it's just I have the luxury of being somewhat semi-retired, so I can dedicate myself. But you can apply those things within your day-to-day work from the very start of your career, focusing on people and focusing on the planet. So yeah, that's my journey so far.
Working with graduates, definitely sustainability, those type of values are front and center in terms of how they conduct their lives when they're looking for jobs, when they're looking to work with employers. So that's, for us, it's a very positive thing to see. If you could hark back on your leadership journey, Tina, I know you've spoken about who you surround yourself with, choose wisely. You've talked, I think, about learning, starting from one specific job role and kind of navigating to somewhere else. But are there any other skills or tips for someone that's just maybe beginning their own career journey that they can probably take from your own, that you can look back now?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you 3 C's. So, hopefully this resonates with people, and it seems like each session I do, I've got different C's, but today's 3 C's is curiosity, creativity, and courage. And those 3 core aspects, as we think about, as I've, coached and developed many graduates, those 3 key components, it's agnostic of technical skill. If you're curious, you will ask questions, you will be hungry for, the thirst of information, you will go after, the next question and the next question, and you'll be, this ongoing intellectual curiosity will serve you very well. The next component, as it relates to creativity, right? We've got to get outside of our box, we've got to get outside of what our biases are, and we have to be thinking about how we solve things more creatively and with more innovation, more than ever. The enabling technologies that we have, the ability to do things at the speed that we can achieve, the more creative you are, the bigger impact you can have, because you're going to be shaking things up and you're really going to push organizations to be better, which I think is, is in the best interest of everybody. And then the last one around courage. So, as I transitioned from each role, I was never the expert in the room, right? When I went from finance into the chief data officer for JP Morgan Chase globally, I even questioned, why am I getting this role, right? And I got it for many reasons, but not necessarily the technical capability around data management. So what did I do? I had the courage to say, okay, I'm not an expert and I'm okay with that. I want to become an expert, and therefore over the next 90 days, what will I do? So a 90-day plan was always how I transitioned into each role. Okay. Who did I want to meet with? What do I want to learn? How do I surround myself with the best people in this space? And then how do I just make sure that as I'm building that knowledge base and that commercial awareness of a particular topic, that I'm also feeding that back into my own opinions. So having the courage to not be perfect, not be, an expert day one is really important, because I think we all have such high expectations of ourselves, and it's just not realistic when you're trying to learn something new or going to an organization. So yeah, they're the 3: curiosity, creativity, and courage. And just making sure that you are also kind to yourselves, back to the mental health point, right? It's a long race. Everyone's got, we're all, not everything has to happen tomorrow. So just also being measured in how you measure your own success and your own accomplishments, I think is really important. So you keep up your momentum.
I like the 3 C's. I love practical. So 90-day plan, my eyes lit up because I was like, oh, this is something I can apply. So what constitutes that plan? It's who do I want to meet with? What do I want to achieve? And what were the other key questions, Tina, just so that it's useful to people in the room?
Yeah, and sort of what are the problems I'm trying to solve? I mean, there is sort of a structure in how I would normally do my 90-day plan, but it really is around who are the stakeholders, what is important to each of those stakeholders, really understanding the problem statement or the opportunity, and then having an execution plan that comes off of that to give my own insights back on how I develop the strategy and how I work with the team to be able to get that done. So, and it is a visual, right? Think about it like a Gantt chart. So,
Okay.
First 15 days, I'm going to meet with 20 key stakeholders and I'm just going to be in interview mode. And, I don't want to be distracted by, trying to run the business. I want to actually learn what I'm actually going to be responsible for. And then you sort of Gantt chart it down towards the end of the 90 days, which is not that it should be a big reveal of like, ta-da, but it is this ongoing sort of evolution of your own knowledge, but then also how you apply that to solve either the problem or to do the role.
Oh, fantastic. No, I'm going to definitely take that away. So this always comes very quickly in terms of finishing off because the 30 minutes fly. But I got one, I guess, final question, which is there was a report that came out, a little bit of research this week that showed about young people when they think about their careers, particularly young women, were feeling more anxious. And one of the reasons was around too many career choices, which also can be quite paralyzing. Any advice on, I guess this applies to everyone, when you have a lot of choice, how do you sort of choose one path and stick to it and sort of progress?
So it's an interesting one because as I've done interviews with a number of people on Unbeatable You, as I was trying to work out the problem statement, the first thing that people say is, within the career counseling, I'm given a 200-page book basically, and I've got to like navigate through to work out, this is the path that I want to follow. That's just overwhelming, right? Just the volume of it is overwhelming. So I don't have a magical answer, but what I would say is whatever is in your gut as it relates to what jazzes you, what gets you excited, lean into your strength. Because, I may have wanted to be a psychologist, but that was never going to be my strength based on, for whatever reason, my own resilience in certain capacities and my emotion, I cry at ads, right? So I was never going to be a psychologist. So, but I knew I had a strength and an appreciation for accounting and how to do that well. So start with your strengths, understand that you could have many options as it relates to your strengths. And then also, we talk about like a one-way door and two-way door. Whatever you choose is a two-way door, right? It's not the end. You can always come back through that door and go down to another path. We've got empowered women in trade running a program at the moment. We've got women in there from 17 to 42 doing an 8-day program to pick up the tools and learn, right? The 42-year-old had courage to say, I don't want to continue on this career path. I'm going to, reinvent myself and potentially become a tradie. Amazing.
Fantastic.
Right? Amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we should all, so yes, there is an enormous amount of information. There's an enormous amount of opportunity and potential pathways, but also just take a breath, work out where your strengths are, work out for the next 3 to 5 years where you want to, where you think you can best invest your energy, but also know that can evolve through time. So.
I like the analogy of the two-way door. That makes sense, right? It's not a fatal choice.
Yep.
All right, amazing. So everyone, I want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you, Tina, for sharing your insights. I think Christina's put something on chat. So if you're from university, you can get a certificate saying you've been here because that counts for your leadership points. We have one of these every month, and the next one is about why every graduate needs to understand data, which, Tina, again, is your play space. But I want to say thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely lunch, everybody, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Terrific. Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a good day.